This is about 3 hours long.
Okay, we'll try to keep it low. Okay.
Darn it.
Come on, man.
Alright, so how do all ages venues compare to the other venues that you've played at?
Compare. That's tough to say. I mean, in all honesty, there's, you know, I wouldn't want to necessarily compare, but what I would say is that we don't generally play 21 hour venues. So I don't, you know, like it's not like I have this kind of, you know, back and forth way to compare them all. Most of the shows we play, even in places that have bars, we try to make them all ages, or at the very least, like, you know, 16, 18 and up. The only time we've ever played 21 and up is if it's literally like some crazy special private event, or like the only way we can play on that day in that town, and we need to, because like we won't have gas money or something like that, you know? I mean, that said, there is a difference between spaces like this that have a more, you know, just like kind of more like community-oriented vibe, and even normal rock clubs that will do all ages or 16 and up shows or whatever. And the difference, I think, is largely in all honesty, like the vibe at times like this, as opposed to when one is actually on stage. You know, because we do try and keep it all ages all the time. Like the makeup of the audience is usually pretty similar, but there's a, you know, much more kind of like rigid schedule at a normal rock club. There's a lot of times, you know, they have the added motivation of keeping people drinking at the bar, which of course they have usually higher commercial rent and taxes to pay and all that. So it's not like, you know, it's not a diss at all, but there's definitely just more of like a kind of like, hey, like we put this together, like DIY kind of vibe at places like this that is different.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm the one who's going to make this 3 hours.
Okay, the DC punk scene has had a major influence on FAA. How has its politics and punk ethos influenced your music?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how I can boil that down to you know, a cogent short answer. I mean,
well, you've like lived and worked in DC before, right?
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, it's true. But my period of being sort of more strongly influenced by the politics of the DC punk scene really was from an earlier time, from before I lived there. It was probably more, you know, really when I was in high school. I was, you know, I grew up as part of the New York hardcore and punk world, and, you know, loved a lot of what was going on there, but certainly the way that you know, the Discord world specifically in DC approached what they did ethically, and the openness with which they allowed all of their music to grow and not be so stridently conservative in adhering to the like kind of punk and hardcore blueprint. Had a huge influence on me before I even really started seriously playing bands. So like we're talking like mid '80s, early '80s, mid '80s.
All right.
cool.
How is touring solo different from touring with the pharmacists?
Well, I do all the driving. Yeah, it's totally different actually. It's you know, when I'm on stage and I'm in the middle of a song, it's not as different as you might think, because band is playing, and we're all kind of locked into this thing together. You're in the midst of the kind of ecstatic moment of making music that is exhilarating to you. So that feeling carries over in both senses, in both contexts for me. But touring solo is everything is a little bit looser, and I have the freedom to play a song if I want to play it, not play a song if I don't want to play it, talk more if I want to talk, not talk if I don't want to talk, hang out more. I play in smaller places when I'm playing solo. The demand is not as great as for band shows, and I mean, in all honesty, a kind of unfortunate reality of the situation that the band has found itself in for a good portion of the last decade is that it's hard for me sometimes these days to even just go out and watch another band, because I'll try and do that, and people with the best of intentions will come up and want to talk to you, but when it's not always the best time. It makes it hard for me to be able to engage with the whole night and with the other bands who maybe I've never seen or heard before, and whose music I want to know about. They're playing this bill with us, and touring solo, I really have the ability to do much more on my own schedule, and much more able to kind of engage even in moments like this, literally, which I would probably not be doing if it was a band show. It's just the logistics of everything that has to happen would negate the possibility. I'd have to be getting the van, or loading up, or dealing with something. There's just all kinds of whole other things. Now, that said, I'm also not drawing a line and saying that this is better than that. I mean, my band are my best friends. There's nothing that replaces being on stage with a loud band, just kicking it out. So it's a little bit apples and oranges in comparison. One's not necessarily better than the other, but they do have their differences.
Okay, cool. And I guess we kind of covered this. I got one more. What is your favorite food to eat while on tour? A little bit unrelated, but
right. Well, this is actually a really interesting, practical thing. I'm vegan, and
right on.
I have been. I went vegetarian in 1988, and I went vegan in 1990. So at this point, it's just who I am. It's not something that I even struggle with, or whatever. But that is certainly one factor of it. Also, just as you get older, there's a real legitimate issue of your body just doesn't bounce back from the abuse that you put it through, like it did when you were a teenager or in your 20s, or it's just that's just the fact of life. That's just the way it goes. So I have to. I mean, I try to be even more conscious about the way that I eat these days, because I need to be properly fueled, and have the proper recovery kind of food ready for me. I eat simply. I eat far down the food chain. You can't for tour fuel for me. You can't beat the simplest rice and beans and some greens. That is seriously, that is what's going to get you through your day with the energy that you need to perform the way that you want to perform, and to be able to do it the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Stuff like that. So I when I'm home, all bets are off, and I certainly go the junk food or pasta route. But when I'm on tour, we have this joke about day off spaghetti. I don't really my treat for myself on my days off is a big Italian meal. That's my big decade. day off.
Alright, that's it.
thanks so
It
much.
was an awesome show.
Thanks you guys.
Yeah. All right.
Alright.
Do well.